Hello, Nasdaq followers, and welcome back for another Nasdaq Spotlight. My name is Leonel Farah. I'm your producer and host here at the Market Site. Joining us today to talk a little bit more about Greenovate company, straight from the Innovate 46 Summit, is Thomas Johansson, board member of Cargo Space 24, and Ludwig Emgaard, founder and CEO of SpotScale. Now, both of you are in the Greenovate space, meaning you're at the intersection of innovation and doing well by the world and environmentally friendly companies. Now, could you tell us what is a Greenovate company and how does your company embody that?
A Greenovate company in my sight is a company who's make impact on the emissions on the world. For us, we develop services for that kind in the transport industry to make better services, easier way to see how the impact is rolling. Because if you put one pallet on a trailer each day, you save a lot of emissions, and that's what we think about impacts and what the world is today for us.
Yeah, so we're a company affecting real estate, and real estate stands for 40% of the global consumption today, and there's a huge potential to lower this, and we're working with building owners to make them understand where leakages are in their buildings so they can save money and lower the carbon footprint of their own buildings by renovation.
So for both these companies, not only are they green companies in the sense that they watch it for the environment, you mentioned cost. Cost is a big factor. Do you think that that is the way that Greenovate companies are perceived? And also, what potential does this have for your customers in terms of saving money and cutting down costs?
I'm sure that the environment not cost anything, it's only savings. So there's always winner in environment thinking if you do it in the right way. That's what I'm sure about.
Yeah, I agree. I think they can save a lot of cost and they can be more conscious. And for a real estate owner, I think that it's a lot about also initially looking good in what you're doing. You want to look good to your other real estate partners around the world and make sure you do what you can do.
But for both of your companies, that's kind of the crux. It's the crux of what you do. It's your butter and bread. So let's talk a little bit more specifically about your companies. For Cargo Space 24, you focus on minimizing vehicles that don't fully use their freight capacity. Now, what is the issue that is coming up here that you're aiming to solve? Could you expand on that a little bit?
If you fill extra pallet in each trailer every day in a system, you save a lot of environment and you save a lot of cost. That's our ground thing. So we always think about there's always winner in our system if you connect the system. It's an easy platform to use, and that's the main story. It must be easy to connect, it must be easy to work in, it must be easy to live in. And then you stay in and you save a lot of emissions and you save a lot of costs.
Right, exactly. So because they're not maximizing currently is because you're seeing that over expenditure.
Yeah, today around 50% on the trucks on the road have free capacity.
Wow, that's a
huge,
pretty telling stat.
Yeah.
So you're working on reversing that, making sure that does not happen.
Yeah.
Now, Cargo Space 24, or we just spoke about Cargo Space 24, SpotScale, focus on finding heat leakages, as you mentioned. Now, what is the reaction when customers see, like here are the heat leakages and here's the changes that you can make? What's the typical kind of response that you get in the next plan of action?
Yeah, I mean, some of these errors might be expected. They might know that they have old windows that are leaking, but there are also hidden heat leakages in the buildings that we can identify that they're not aware of. So if they would make an isolation as an effect of our analysis, they could save as much as 10% of the total energy cost on their buildings. So it's pretty significant for the real estate owners and a huge cost to save.
Absolutely. And now you said you're not just working with homes necessarily, you're working with real estate.
Yes.
So this is big properties.
Yeah, so the larger building, the larger problems. Usually warehouses are leaking a lot. Brick buildings, like you have a lot of them in New York, is a huge problem. So I mean, there's plenty of things to work with. Being a Swedish company, we're coming over here. We have a significant, quite small market in Sweden, and we need to export our technology here, where there's much larger potential to grow.
Now, both of you work also with technology. Could you elaborate a little bit on how each of your businesses will address the issues? For example, for reducing carbon emissions, what role will technology play in that?
I think that we're talking about the same thing all the time. Being using this system and the modern technology in one way or each way you're working, it's going to be a game changer in the future to how you transport your things. If you can decide to how to do it, and you can see how the emission has gone. So I think it's when you're going in the next step of generations of buyer of things and people, they're going to be more interested in how are you shipping my shipments. That's the main, I think.
Now, you make an interesting appeal, which is the fact that people will care. They will look for those details.
I'm sure of that.
And so do you think it will mean more business if a business can show that it really cares about
Of course, it's more business. I think the environment in transportation, because it's so easy to see that you drop a lot of emissions on the road for a car or a truck or something. But here, when you can see directly, I can take another choice. I can take electric car with doing my transports or something, best emission, fully load cars. And you can decide that instead of the time. It's really interesting.
Right, absolutely. Now, for spot scale and looking at heat leakages, what technology will that play in the future? I mean, obviously now, and we'll link to all of your visualizations that show exactly the heat leakages, but how does technology play into that?
I mean, in the future, I envision that we will have some certification. So each building would be certified as a climate neutral building, so to speak. And there's a few different things you can do there. You could optimize the flow of heat. The HVAC systems. We're looking specifically at the building envelope of the building, and that's one very important part of this equation. So when you're calculating the heat loss of the building or the whole heat system and ventilation system, you need this piece of the puzzle to make the equation right. So yeah.
And now, finally, looking forward and being a part of the Greenovate 46 Acceleration Week, how will it help your vision of entering the US market?
Yeah, so we looked a lot at Silicon Valley, obviously for tech reasons. Now we're evaluating New York. I think there's a huge potential in the real estate industry here in New York. There's plenty of things to do on the building side. You have large problems to work with, and you have cold weather, which is good for heat leakage identification.
Especially in a place like New York, as you mentioned.
Yes.
It's been a great, you get a lot of information and great impact to be here and see how the US market is working, because this is something of the heart of the US for me, so it's coming from the West Coast in Sweden. So it's really interesting, and we learn a lot in these 3 days still, and we have still some more days. So.
Well, both of you are at the head of companies that are definitely companies to watch within the Greenovate space. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you out on the floor.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nasdaq followers, for joining us on another episode of Spotlight. Stay tuned here on the Nasdaq channel for more updates from the Innovate 46 Summit.